Hey guys, welcome back to Montavue. Today I'm going to be going over the wireless doorbell camera. I'm going to be showing you guys how to install it using Montavue Go for a smartphone. And then I'm also going to go over how to add it to your NVR through the network so that you can record it alongside the rest of your cameras. Lastly, I'm going to show you guys a couple demonstrations of how the doorbell works, and I'm going to go over a couple of details on how it operates within Montavue Go, the application. So getting started, a few basics about this camera. It is a 1080p resolution or 2 megapixel. This is basically standard high definition. It's got about a 15-foot range on the IR night vision distance. So it means it's probably going to be able to see everything on your porch and then some, probably into your yard. It's not terribly powerful, but it's good enough to see whoever's approaching your front door at night. Next, it's got about a 140-degree field of view. This is significantly wider than most of the cameras we offer. Generally, it's anywhere about 105 to 110 degrees. So 140, it's going to definitely cover the peripherals that normal cameras would miss. This isn't basically to make sure that if it's attached to a wall, it's going to be able to see everything that's happening on the sides of your house, just in case somebody doesn't approach the door directly. It has a PIR motion sensor, so it can detect motion on the front here. So this does have an IP rating of 55. This means that it is generally weatherproof, however, it is not waterproof. As long as this camera is under a porch, under an overhang, and it's not directly subjected to water constantly, it's going to be just fine. Just keep in mind that it's not necessarily meant for direct exposure to the elements, but it can be outside as long as it's got some sort of covering protecting it from direct, consistent moisture contact. So it does shoot in 30 frames per second, so that it's going to be able to be just about as smooth as the rest of our cameras in our lineup. And it also has a built-in speaker as well as a built-in microphone for two-way audio. So if somebody comes up to your door and they ring it, you're going to be able to have a conversation with them through this. The operating temperature range is -4 degrees Fahrenheit all the way to 122 degrees Fahrenheit. It does have an SD card slot located in the back. Now, this is the primary method to record its footage. So it is designed to record straight to that micro SD card. You can have up to 256 gigabytes on a single SD card. So that should give you a few days of usable footage. Of course, you guys also can hook this up to an NVR through the network, and that means going on registration. We're gonna go over that later in this video. But essentially, you can hook it up through your network and record to your NVR's hard drive as well as the SD card. The wireless range on this, considered open field, is 300 feet. Now, when they say open field, that means little to no obstacles in that 300-foot distance. So realistically, you guys are going to have this going up in your homes or your offices, where there's going to be a significant amount of obstacles between this and the router. So more realistically, you guys are looking at a distance from about 100 to 200 feet from the router. This is largely going to be dependent on what type of router you guys have in your establishment. Because this camera is wireless, that means it does need to be powered through different means other than PoE, like the rest of our cameras on our system. So in order to power the doorbell camera, you guys are going to need to connect it to an existing doorbell circuit. Generally, this is attached to a transformer that has roughly anywhere from 16 to 24 volts of output. The second thing you guys can do to plug it in, just in case you didn't have a doorbell setup already in place, is you guys can use a micro USB cable to plug this in and power it. This is really similar to what you guys might find on an Android phone to charge it. Really easy to find, you can get them at any gas station. But this will plug into the back here. And then of course the tricky part is just mounting it to the wall while still maintaining that USB plug-in. But obviously the preferred method is through the transformer using the negative and the positive terminals here. It's a pretty easy setup, and as long as it's got 16 to 24 volt output, it'll be able to power this camera fully and be able to function at 100%. So the last thing I want to point out is that it is wireless and it does use the 2.4 gigahertz frequency that routers provide. So you guys might not be familiar with this, but essentially most routers are dual band nowadays, and they have two frequencies, 2.4 gigahertz and a 5 gigahertz. So this uses the 2.4, so setup can be sometimes confusing, just trying to basically go through a certain frequency which is generally what we see when people have issues downloading this and trying to install it, but it's a pretty easy obstacle to overcome, but just keep in mind that it does use the 2.4 gigahertz frequency that routers provide. Alright guys, so that pretty much covers the basics for the wireless doorbell camera. So right now we're going to get into showing you guys how to actually install this device. What we're going to need here is we're going to need Montavue Go downloaded to a smartphone or a tablet, and then we're also going to need power to this doorbell device, so it does need to be installed, whether it is to a micro USB cable or if you guys have it plugged into a 16 to 24 volt transformer. Either way, we got to get that light going and this power on. Alright guys, so the next steps here is we're going to initialize the doorbell once we have it actually powered on and installed. To do this, we're going to be on the smartphone and we're going to open up Montavue Go. So the first step here is we're going to sign into the application. Now this is pretty unique to the doorbell. Normally you guys do not have to sign in for any other Montavue device, but since the doorbell is wireless, we got to sign in first. So to do that, we're going to select settings in the bottom right corner. For those of you on the iPhone, it is going to say me in the bottom right corner. Once we're on that page, we're going to look at the top and we're going to see the option for signing up or signing in. Obviously, if you have not created a Montavue Go account, do that real quick and then go ahead and log into your Montavue Go account. Alright, so once we are logged in, we're going to go back to the home screen. Once we're on the home screen, we're going to press the plus button in the upper right corner. Then we're going to choose SN Scan. This is going to turn your forward-facing camera into a QR code reader. Most of the doorbells should have a QR code located on the back of the unit. If you guys can't get to the back of the unit because it's mounted already, go ahead and just manually type the serial number below. Alright, once we get that serial number in there, we're going to choose account rather than local. Again, this is very unique for the doorbell. You would not do this in any other circumstance, but make sure account is selected and then go ahead and hit next. Alright, now that we've entered in our serial number and we hit next, we should see this screen. And now it is asking us to enable the Wi-Fi hotspot on the doorbell. So to do this, go to the back of the doorbell and simply click the reset button. Then you'll hear the doorbell say this.
Wi-Fi hotspot is enabled.
Once we enable the hotspot, we're going to wait for the LED sequence on the doorbell to show this. And then once we see that LED sequence, we can go ahead and hit next. Okay, once we hit next, it's going to connect wirelessly with that doorbell hotspot. And if everything's successful, it's going to ask us for some credentials for the device. It's always an easier process if the doorbell and the NVR already share the same password. Therefore, you're not going to get any sync issues and it's just going to connect right away. I definitely recommend keeping the passwords the same between your NVR and the doorbell. This way, if you ever want to add the doorbell to your NVR as an official channel, they won't have any issues communicating and you can sync them up all that much easier. Alright, so once you create a password and a username for your doorbell, the next screen is going to ask you to choose what your local network is. Just make sure you're choosing the correct router. If you guys have a dual band router, keep in mind when choosing your network that you're going to have to select the 2 or the 2.4G option. This will be very apparent, just like you see here. Looks like our neighbor's got 2G. Just make sure you're doing that rather than the 5G option so that you have a better chance of connecting your doorbell. So once you choose which network is yours, it is going to have you enter in the password for your guys' network. Okay, so once you get your network password entered in, it's going to connect to your router, and then you're going to hear the doorbell say this.
Successfully connected to network.
Once it says it's successfully connected to the network, the LED on the front of the doorbell is going to blink, and then we're going to wait for it to turn solid blue. As soon as it turns solid blue, go ahead and hit next here. Okay, here on this screen, we're going to choose the device name. This can be whatever you want to call it. It is just going to be how it shows up on your phone. Next, it's going to have us set up the time zone, and then if you guys want to set up daylight savings time with this, you're welcome to do that on this screen. Alright, after we hit next, the last option it's going to give us is connecting it to a chime. Now, we do sell a wireless chime, so here's where you would connect it. However, if you guys have an electronic or a mechanical chime associated with your existing doorbell, here's where you can choose to use that instead. Keep in mind that anytime somebody rings the doorbell, regardless if you have a chime or not, it is still going to ring your phone. So probably going to be some cases where many people don't even use a chime with their doorbell. Okay, and then as you see, as we finish this up here, it's going to give us a live image of the doorbell. And that is what it looks like. All right, so I'm going to give you a quick little demonstration here. If you'll notice, if I press the front of the doorbell, I'm actually ringing it. And then this is what you'll actually see on your screen. Is a kind of like a little phone call coming in. Keep in mind, if you take the phone call and you're standing next to your doorbell, it's actually going to give you a massive amount of feedback, and it can be kind of squeaky and hurt your ears. So just be warned. All right, and this is the final optional step that I'm going to show you guys. And this is adding the doorbell to your NVR. And the benefits of this is so that you can actually see the doorbell from your NVR's interface, as well as record the doorbell's footage to the hard drive, as well as the micro SD card on board the doorbell. All right, so to get started with this, we're going to be on the NVR interface, and we're going to right click on the live view screen. That's going to bring up this little menu, and we're going to choose main menu. Okay, once we're in the main menu, we're going to choose camera, should be in the lower left corner, and then we're going to choose camera registration. All right, so now that we have the camera registration screen pulled up, we're going to do a device search. This is going to locate any camera that is associated with your guys' network, whether it's a hardwired or a wireless camera, and it's going to bring it up in this list. Keep in mind that the doorbell should show up as DB11 as the device name. That's the easiest way to find it. So once you guys identify where that doorbell is on this list, go ahead and select it by putting a white check mark in the box to the left. And then as long as it is initialized with the same password as that's on your NVR, you guys can go ahead and hit add. It's going to pop it into the next available channel on the bottom. And in this case, it's going to put in channel 2. All right, so now that it's channel 2, it's going to show up green. Keep in mind, my doorbell and my NVR share the same password. So there's nothing else I have to do here. And then I'm going to go to the live screen just to check out that I can actually see my doorbell. And at this point, I'm all done and everything should be set up perfectly. All right, guys, that is all I have for you for the doorbell. I know it is a little bit complicated and it can be frustrating, but hopefully you guys followed this tutorial and it got you through just fine. If you guys have any issues with the doorbell setting up, if you guys run into any problems, of course, give our tech support customer service a call. Those guys are always happy to help you out. We've got doorbells in the office, so we can go alongside of you guys and install it over the phone. Thanks, guys. We always appreciate you guys checking out our videos, and you guys have a really good day. Thanks for joining us.